Hi lunatics, here we are, another full moon. It's February the 5th, and this time the song is called The Court.
You put your hand up, you make your bid. You got your pictures all laid out on the grid. Dug in the garden in the softest ground, buried everything that you never want found. And the court will rise while the pillars all fall.
It actually began with a Cuban loop that I was playing around on my keyboard here, and that got me going. I'm an old drummer, so still love to find a groove, and then build some ideas around it. It was sort of a good crystallizing point for the band where we locked into something that sounded to me different from other stuff that I'd heard. And I think that's why it's here to brighten up your February, I hope. And the subject, I had this idea for The Court Will Rise and the chorus, and so it became a rambling, impressionistic lyric, but connected to justice. I think, a lot of life is this struggle between order and chaos, and in some senses, a justice or legal system is something we impose to try and bring some element of order to the chaos. And that's often abused, it's often unfair, discriminatory, but at the same time, it's probably an essential part of a civilized society. So we do need to think sometimes how that's actually realized and employed. With the lyric, I was just throwing these images fairly randomly and coming at it fast, and the to rhyme or not to rhyme question comes up, and I tend to fall back into rhyming. And I know when I was working with Laurie Anderson, she was trying very hard to train me out of rhyming, because it's sometimes a weakness. But then you see when Dylan or Leonard Cohen, some of the great lyric writers, use rhyme in a powerful way. It is something that presses buttons, and I think lines up our mind and emotions in a way that you don't get. Obviously, the whole hip-hop genre, there's a ton of rhyme there, which is at the heart of it. And so that repetition of sound, even though the meanings are changed, is a key tool, and if we can learn, again, how to play with that and use it effectively, then I think it can strengthen what we do.
Got the healer and the birthday cake.
I'm very lucky in that I've been able to work with John Metcalfe, because I think he's a brilliant arranger, and he also gets what I like and what I'm trying to achieve with songs. With a lot of the songs on the record, I wasn't sure I was going to use as much orchestra as I have done, but he does it so well. It's hard then to let go of. The section that I was particularly concerned about was this bridge section, in that I really wanted the strings to help put some energy into it. I wanted to break away from the dominant rhythm of the verse into another groove, but still have the something that would keep it edgy and moving and exciting, and I think John did that brilliantly.
The ball and the claw, in all these pronouncements, I can make out the voice of the law.
What's also great for me this time is that when we went back in the studio, truthfully, with orchestral sessions, whatever name it is, a lot of the players are changing. It's a very fluid lineup. There may be certain key players there, but I was lucky enough that John was able to bring into the studio, or asked the fixer to bring into the studio a lot of the players who'd been in the new Blood Orchestra. So there were quite a few familiar faces, and they're amazing musicians. I always feel it's a privilege. My mum was very focused on classical music. I never really did my piano lessons and didn't really concentrate. So never had the skills. But when I'm working with great players, I always feel humbled by the virtuosity I see in front of me. Same was true this time with this orchestra. I've always liked nepotism, but I've always liked my daughter's voice too. Both actually, Anna and Mel, have good voices, but Mel has made singing part of her career, and it's been fantastic for me to have her out on tour with me. And it was really throwing her in the deep end, but and she has a very gentle, quite innocent sounding voice, but I think I liked to hear that in this song, because I think when you're up in the machinery of the justice system, we're all a little lost, and this sense of the innocent abroad, just in this other world. I think she has some of that in her voice, so I quite like that in this sort of earthy, driving song, there's this smaller, very human voice. So musically, I think it works well, and it's lovely. Anything I can do with my kids gives me great pleasure. There's a great artist called Tim Shaw, whose work is powerful, political, and a lot of it, I think, is about the brutality that we offer to each other. War, one of his themes, torture, and he grew up in Belfast, and so experienced the fear and the reality of seeing violence around him, which I'm sure must have made an impression. I think Tim felt that maybe I'd chosen this image because, in effect, this figure was standing there and being judged and burnt in a way as maybe the result of the judgment. But I think rituals are fascinating. They tell us a lot about ourselves. And this particular image has a strange story attached to it. I just responded to the photograph of this very strange figure that was burning. But the story behind it, which I discovered actually after, was that there's wonderful artists called Gilbert and George, I'm a big fan of, but they were invited to join this esteemed Royal Academy in London, and I think had been promised an exhibition. Well, this is what the story says. I don't know how much is true. And apparently the exhibition didn't materialize, and they felt they'd been conned and got pretty upset and decided to curse the Royal Academy and all of its members. Now, Tim, who was also an innocent member of the Royal Academy, felt upset that they'd all been cursed, and thought, maybe I'll create an event that will counter the curse and remove it. And so he created this figure, and they had a ritual burning of the figure to remove the curse from the Royal Academy and all its members. That I didn't know, but just giving you a little bit of background because it's a curious story. His work is well worth checking out. It's powerful stuff, very shocking but emotional, and I hope makes you think. In terms of organizations that I'd like to mention this time round, there's a brilliant organization called Namati, N-A-M-A-T-I. I recommend you check it out. Their mission is to provide people around the world access to justice, because in many ways, justice is a luxury for the rich. For those who don't have means, they're often deprived of rights and they have no legal redress because they can't afford it. And they do a brilliant job assembling teams around the world to help with different issues, and some environmental activists are being killed every day. It's appalling, but anyway, well worth checking out. So again, part of the photo that inspired it, and I will go into the music a little more in the deep dive, but I think it's a good band outing. It was one of the ones that when we first started rehearsing with the band, they most enjoyed and woke up to. It's a quirky little song with odd time signatures, but I like it. I hope you do too. Thank you.